Time to elevate one's mind. Inspire. Empower. Educate. Inspire. Time to shine. Empower. Time to shine. Educate. Time to shine. Time to elevate one's mind.
Yes, yes, yes. It's that time. Time to rise, time to shine, time to elevate one's mind. Here on the TPLC Educational Talkshow.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's good to be back on this wonderful, wonderful day. And we're looking forward to having your ears for this conversation, our educational talk, where we discuss all things in relation to education and to our children in the Black community.
I'm Danny Thompson,
and
co-host.
And I'm Melenie Hibbert from TPLC.
And I'm Danny Thompson of Evolving Creatives.
And we're here to bring you a wonderful conversation that we're hoping that you'll get in touch with and join in. So the numbers to get in touch is 07920. Oh my gosh, sorry, I'll say that again. 07920 130 128. I'll say that again. 07920 130 128. And of course, you can always reach out to us on the TPLC, the Primary Learning Centre's Facebook page, where we'll gladly get in touch and answer your questions.
Cool. So I think you have something lined up that you want to start the show with, Melanie.
So I think, yeah, because what I think is a good thing to kick off the show is let's have a conversation about what is happening in our education system and what actually makes up a good education. And this video really kind of like brings home the point of what's happening in the current school education system.
I look forward to hearing it.
Okay, here we go.
Albert Einstein once said, "Everybody's a genius. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid." Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, today on trial we have modern day schooling. Glad you could come. Not only does he make fish climb trees, but also makes them climb down and do a 10-mile run. Tell me, school, are you proud of the things you've done? Turning millions of people into robots, do you find that fun? Do you realize how many kids relate to that fish? Swimming upstream in class, never finding their gifts, thinking they are stupid, believing they are useless? Well, the time has come, no more excuses. I call school to the stand and accuse him of killing creativity, individuality, and being intellectually abusive. He's an ancient institution that has outlived his usage. So, Your Honor, this concludes my opening statement, and if I may present the evidence of my case, I will prove it.
Proceed.
Exhibit A. Here's a modern day phone. Recognize it? Here's a phone from 150 years ago. Big difference, right? Stay with me. Here's a car from today. And here's a car from 150 years ago. Big difference, right? Well, get this. Here's a classroom of today. And here's a class we used 150 years ago. Now ain't that a shame? In literally more than a century, nothing has changed. Yet you claim to prepare students for the future? But with evidence like that, I must ask, do you prepare students for the future or the past? I did a background check on you and let the record show that you were made to train people to work in factories, which explains why you put students in straight rows, nice and neat, tell them sit still, raise your hand if you want to speak, give them a short break to eat, and for 8 hours a day tell them what to think. Oh, and make them compete to get an A, a letter which determines product quality, hence grade A of meat. I get it. Back then, times were different. We all have a past. I myself am no Gandhi. But today, we don't need to make robot zombies. The world has progressed. And now we need people who think creatively, innovatively, critically, independently, with the ability to connect. See, every scientist will tell you that no two brains are the same. And every parent with 2 or more children will confirm that claim. So please explain why you treat students like cookie cutter frames or snapback hats, giving them this one-size-fits-all crap.
Watch your language.
Sorry, Your Honor, but if a doctor prescribed the exact same medicine to all of his patients, the results will be tragic. So many people will get sick, yet when it comes to school, this is exactly what happens. This educational malpractice, where one teacher stands in front of 20 kids, each one having different strengths, different needs, different gifts, different dreams, and you teach the same thing the same way? That's horrific. Ladies and gentlemen, the defendant should not be acquitted. This may be one of the worst criminal offenses ever to be committed. And let's mention the way you treat your employees.
Objection. Overruled. I want to hear this.
It's a shame. I mean, teachers have the most important job on the planet, yet they're underpaid? No wonder so many students are short-changed. Let's be honest, teachers should earn just as much as doctors, because a doctor can do heart surgery and save the life of a kid, but a great teacher can reach the heart of that kid and allow him to truly live. See, teachers are heroes that often get blamed, but they're not the problem. They work in a system without many options or rights. Curriculums are created by policymakers, most of which have never taught a day in their life. Just obsessed with standardized tests. They think bubbling in a multiple choice question will determine success. That's outlandish. In fact, these tests are too cruel to be used and should be abandoned, but don't take my word for it. Take Frederick J. Kelly, the man who invented standardized testing, who said, and I quote, "These tests are too cruel to be used and should be abandoned." Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if we continue down this road, the results will be lethal. I don't have much faith in school, but I do have faith in people. And if we can customize healthcare, cars, and Facebook pages, then it is our duty to do the same for education, to upgrade it, change it, do away with school spirit, because that's useless. Unless we're working to bring the spirit out of each and every student, that should be our task. No more Common Core. Instead, let's reach the core of every heart in every class. Sure, math is important, but no more than art or dance. Let's give every gift an equal chance. I know this sounds like a dream, but countries like Finland are doing impressive things. They have shorter school days. Teachers make a decent wage. Homework is non-existent, and they focus on collaboration instead of competition. But here's the kicker, boys and girls. Their educational system outperforms every other country in the world. Other places like Singapore are succeeding rapidly. Schools like Montessori, programs like Khan Academy, there is no single solution. But let's get moving, because while students may be 20% of our population, they are 100% of our future. So let's attend to their dreams, and there's no telling what we can achieve. This is a world in which I believe. A world where fish are no longer forced to climb trees. I rest my case.
Wow.
Yes. Do we know the identity of the brother?
That's Prince E.
Prince E. I've
And
seen some of his stuff before.
his information is so... that just resonates so deeply with me. I just, as I'm watching and listening, I'm nodding my head along and I'm saying absolutely, absolutely. And that is so true, that we are still in a draconian system that was, you know, and the picture that he showed was of a schoolroom 150 years ago where they are sat in straight rows and their hands up, and they showed a picture of the modern day again sat in the same way sort of thing. And the picture he showed of like it was a Lamborghini car, and the car back of 150 years ago was one of them wagons, carts and wagons sort of thing, showing the difference of how things have moved along in terms of technology, but yet the school system is still exactly the same.
Yeah.
And the curriculum, you know, made up of policymakers that have nothing to do, that are literally brainwashing our children.
Well, I mean, I think you have to look at the purpose of education by those who the purpose of education by those who set the education system. And I will break it down into two. There's education for the elite and there's education for the masses, and they serve two different purposes. Education for the elites, you're taught to rule. Simple. Education for the worker, for the masses, you're taught to be a worker. You're not taught to be a fully rounded, guided, holistic human being, productive human being. You're taught to be a worker. That is the whole purpose of the education system.
Well, and it sets you up from when you're born. I watched a program on BBC Two last week of would a black person ever become prime minister?
Okay, I heard it.
And it was good. It was with David Harwood, and he kind of followed a newborn baby, and then looked statistically at the disparities of what would happen, you know, in terms of things. And so straight off it's going where you say in terms of the elite and the workers. So in terms of those that had money and those that were in sort of state schools of poverty and so forth. So even up to the age of 5, those that were elite had about a year's difference in terms of vocabulary between a 5-year-old of one and one in in poverty, so to speak. Yeah. And then in terms of the schooling system as it was going through, you know, as it went through, in terms of grades, and in terms of the access to certain universities or colleges and so forth. So you've got an elite few schools that feed into Oxbridge.
Absolutely.
Oxford and Cambridge.
Oxbridge.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Into those thingies. And normal children are they do get in, but it's like in terms of one of a thousand, as opposed to you know the trailer load that come through those specific sixth form colleges that feed into the universities, you know. So there is definitely what you're saying in reference to an education system for the elite and those for the workers. But our point here now, you know, is what are we going to do about this? We're very much aware that the school system teaches everybody on the same sort of way, where nobody's individuality or creativity can inspire and come out. So what do we do to combat that? I
mean, just to take a line out of the poem he said about, you know, it's like the equivalent of a doctor prescribing the same medicine for 100 different patients.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It's not going to happen. What we need to do, well, if we accept the premise that the education system serves a purpose, one purpose for the elite, another purpose for the masses, then that also is going to impact.
Albert Einstein
that's
once
also
said,
going to impact culturally. Yeah. So we know, we're well aware of the how we're not being served cultural education that benefits us. You know, we're being served a cultural education that adds to our own self-oppression as well as the oppression that we get.
To keep you subservient.
Yeah, keep us subservient,
keep
us
you
in
in
the
tow,
place,
keep you in line,
and keep us ignorant of ourselves. So we basically need to create something that challenges that, and we need to create it on all levels, whether that's from an after-school club or into ultimately our own educational institutions, where we are providing an alternative curriculum, an alternative philosophy, and an alternative educational ethos that serves us.
Absolutely.
And
you can see the fruit. I see the fruits of that mode out there. If you look at say Akala's got all of his information and knowledge about who he is from attending Pan-African supplementary schools in the 70s and the 80s. You know, they made sure that his parents...
I think Akala was kind of 90s, because I don't think he was born in the 70s.
No, 70s, late 70s he is.
He's not 40. He's not in his 40s. For real? Brother's looking good.
So I'm nodding my head. Yeah, he himself says.
Good. But yeah,
you know, attending them Pan-African schools in the late 70s, early 80s and so forth and stuff. And you know, that's where he found who he was and his strength, you know, and if you see, he has the resilience to go against all,
and the self-confidence.
That's it.
The self-confidence, the self-belief, to just look, I know who I am, and you can't move that.
And that's what we need to be ensuring that happens for our children now, by making sure that we don't rely on this draconian school system to brainwash our children into believing that they're stupid or less than, or have or don't have the ability to achieve anything that they set their mind to. You know, to explore their own talents. You know, do you know what I mean?
Real talk. And I mean, you know, you think about it. A child enters full-time education at what, the age of 5 or something? Yeah, thereabouts. Yeah. And the earliest they can leave is 16.
It's 18 now.
18 now? What, you count? Oh, okay.
No, you got to be in some form of education, somewhere, but it's apprenticeship or something.
Okay.
From 16 to 18, but yeah.
Okay, so going at 5, come out at 18. That's 13 years of continuous education. Yeah.
And those are times of your informative years.
Absolutely. So for any child to come out of 13 years of education and not have a clue what they want to do with their lives or who they are, etc., is a total indictment of that system. What have you been doing with this child for 13 years that the child comes out, who am I? What do I need to go off and find myself. Why? Where you been?
Absolutely. But they've not been taught anything about themselves. You know, certainly not from school. So that's why it's our place as parents to ensure that we educate them in that way.
Yeah. So we need to come together, collaborate, bring our individual skills sets together, and build something, build our own schools. But we need our own, we as the parental generation, we need to, how can I put it, self-motivate our own self-confidence to make those steps. You know what I mean? To actually come out of our houses and make those steps and start that club. And deal with it on a reality in that, it's probably going to start with one room in a community center somewhere. That's fine. But, when you starting with that room in that community center, you slowly, over time, over years, build up, because it's a long-term solution.
It is. And then also there's that element of, even if it stays as one room in that community centre, it's the people that come through that community, that one room.
I don't say
and
one room.
How many you educate in that time. No, I know what you mean, but I'm saying it's like each one teach one.
Absolutely.
It's that kind of thing. Have that, do something, pay it forward, and even if it is only to a group of people, a handful of children, your own children, pay it forward. Make sure that it is done. And that's I think is key.
Yeah,
is key. If each one teach one, if we make sure that we pass on these information and teach our children about themselves, and then teach others so they can then pass that on as well. It's that we spoke about it before in terms of untold stories, making sure that legacies and the history is being passed, that the oral histories are being passed down to our children, and because they get lost when that person passes on. So it's even more imperative to make sure that we're talking to our children. And I do wish that my own parents spoke to me more about my history. I've had to go and find out a lot for myself, but then that's the way it was. And we have to understand that our parents weren't taught about their history either. Well, that's right. When I think about my mum came here when she was 13, and entered into the British school system.
Absolutely.
So therefore, if they're not getting it.
Yeah. So, we have to take what little piece we have and add it to our next piece and build it. And in doing so, we have to answer fundamental questions like, what is a good education? What is it? Because if you get 100 people in a room, you're going to get 100 different opinions. So, we need to kind of create a common base of what is the purpose of education. And I was thinking about this, and for me, a good education is knowledge that meets the needs of the student. Yeah, it's about meeting the needs of the student. And so how does that apply in to our community, the black community? What is the knowledge that we, our youth and our adults, what's the knowledge that we need to elevate ourselves, to change our mindsets, to propel us forward? That's the discussion that I think we need to have, because like I said, if you put 100 black parents in a room and you ask them that question, you'll get 100 different answers. That's the conversation we need to have, so we can come to a common understanding, a common grounding, and to say, well, right, that's the space I'm going to send my child to, because I know what my child's going to get.
So what kind of answers do you think our parents would say at this point?
You see, as a parent, you want the best for your child. You want your child to be materialistically happy, nice house, all the things of life. And you want your child to be happy in relationship, family. You want your child to raise their own family, kind of stuff. And I think that's why I think a lot of parents will feel the conflict between, look, your child needs grades. Okay, that's the reality of the world we live in. Your child needs grades. If you forget about getting the job. If you want the interview, you need grades. Yeah. So if you put it to a parent that, well, actually, a more cultural, holistic education, which isn't to put aside grades, but if you put to a parent, well, a more cultural, holistic education, which doesn't put grades as the primary achievement, it if you put that to a parent, and I would expect a parent to say, but wait a minute, what do you mean? My child needs grades because, you know, my child needs food, and they need to be able to put food on their own table. So I think that there's an explanation needed of what is a cultural holistic education and how can it function in 2017.
Okay, so yes, because I'm hearing what you're saying, and immediately I want to say, well, actually, having this type of education would do this, but let's just make this clear. What is a cultural-based education?
Go on. Okay. Culture is everything. Yeah, I'll just say that culture is everything, and we need a cultural. Our young people, our students, need to be culturally grounded in their own culture. And when I say grounded in their own culture, we need to develop a sense of ownership. So our young people own their culture and can see themselves in their culture, and therefore can project images, future. They can project future of themselves rooted in their culture, as opposed to okay, it's a difference between aspiring to Richard Branson and Lord Sugar, and Bill Gates and what have you. It's a difference between aspiring to them and aspiring to black examples of those kinds of achievements. Do you understand? So, you know, whether, name's gone off my head, but I know that, like, I can't remember, the richest black man in this country was born in Africa, but he's lived here and he does his business here. And I know that he does some, he has charities which are there to support young black people. And just knowledge of him, just knowledge that he exists, gives our children an alternative to aspire to. Because you know what? This man looks like my uncle. Yeah. He looks like my uncle, or he looks like the guy who sits front, you know, he looks like the man who sits in front of us at church. He looks like him. Yeah. Those are the nature of, you know, we're looking at examples. Those are the nature of examples, goal-setting examples that we need, because those are, we can almost touch them. We can taste them. The Richard Bransons, the Bill Gates, and what have you. They're out. They're over there. They're quite abstract. You know what I mean? It's like I can't see the journey between me here on a council flat in South London and reach that journey, that joining the dots to me being a world-renowned entrepreneurial businessman. Yeah, I can't see those steps with the Gates and the thing of that world, but I can start to make those steps when the person looks like me or looks like a member of my family. Absolutely.
And I think we need to find some real people that we can, you know, easily call names and say, because, you know, these people are out there, but we don't know of them to be able to put in front of our young people and to say, these are who you can aspire to. So that's something that is, we definitely need to go and look for these people, because they are there, but they're not getting the attention or the media coverage to show that they're successful.
So that's like, you know, part of us putting together our own curriculum. Is about putting together examples that resonate with our young people, and in turn will resonate from us, because obviously we're dealing with education, and that's the focus is young. But I'm always of the vibe that if it applies to young, it applies to old as well, because there are enough of us of our age group walking around to learn it. Uneducated, totally uneducated.
And I think the other element of having a cultural based education is, you know, our young people at the moment are missing out there. They're lost. There's like a lost generation wandering, not knowing of their place in the world, of who they are, struggling to find their identities, so therefore catching up in all kinds of madness and foolishness, because ultimately they don't have any grounding or anything to stand for, so they will fall for anything, you know. And it's that kind of missing cultural identity that allows our young people to walk
Absolutely.
the street like zombies. And when I say zombies,
fall between the
I
cracks.
don't mean in that they actually look like zombies, but their mind is so vacant, you know, that they might as well be zombies. You know,
And some of
unaware.
them look like zombies because how many young people do you see walking with their head to the floor?
They're, you know, and that again demonstrates a lack of self-esteem, a lack of self-confidence, a lack of knowing who they are and, you know, their place in the world, so to speak, you know. So having a cultural-based education builds them from a young age in their identity and who they are as people, whose shoulders they stand on, their history, their culture, where they come from, and everything that they can be proud of, and have an act almost to the point that they can move around the world, just like how white folk would move around with this belief of this benefit that they have just from the fact of being white, sense of entitlement. You know, our black folk our children need to be walking around with a sense of entitlement to their heritage, to their identity. Do you know what I mean?
Develop a cultural arrogance.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
You know, and that's what's going to push and move them forward. So we can't advocate enough for a cultural based education, and that, you know, and I've been recently, since Donald Trump won the election to president-elect.
Donald Trump.
Isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Since he won the election, I've been seeing some videos on Facebook of teachers like just outrightly being racist in front of their children. You know, one saying, you know, there's too many Latinos in the country and such and what have you, and another one saying, oh, this one was dreadful actually, this white woman was getting very, very angry with her class and then turned around and said that you're all a bunch of N's. Wow. and you know, we'll get shot, you know, and lining up to get shot kind of thing. And what that just brought to mind was even more so how imperative it is that if you cannot get your children out of the school system to home educate, you have to ensure that you are doing more than just sending them to school. You have to ensure that you are doing something to counterbalance that negativity that's being poured into them on a daily basis, and that is undoubtedly affecting their psyche and the way that they think about themselves and the way that they view each other. They are being taught from a young age to hate and fear each other, to hate themselves and fear each other, you know, in that sense. So we have to guard and protect our children's psyche, and by having a cultural based education, it enables that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it reminds me of I'm old enough, I'm sure you're young enough to remember too. You remember there used to be a breakfast a TV advert for the cereal. I forget what the cereal was, like a kind of porridge, but it wasn't porridge, it was a new thing. And the boy would eat the porridge in the morning, and then he got out in the cold, and you see this
Oh, the warm glow, ready bread.
Ready bread, that's it. We need to give our children some African ready bread. You know what I mean? But that's a great thing. But
absolutely, yeah.
And one of the barriers that I put, and I think it's the major barrier in terms of education in terms of the black community, is this, yeah? We study everything and everyone except us.
Yeah.
Asians study Asia and Asian people. Europeans study Europe and Europeans. Chinese study China and Chinese people. It's innate human quality to be curious about yourself. Curious about, you know, we're both parents. We know at some point in their early development, children want to know, where'd I come from?
Yeah.
How'd I get here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we, you know, we seem to be lacking as a community, as a mass of people. We seem to be lacking that natural, innate curiosity about ourselves. And so I think, you know, the first thing we need to do is develop the habit of studying ourselves. Now, there's a whole psychological barrier to that because we're taught to hate ourselves. We're taught that we haven't got anything to study. Do you know what I'm saying? And that to me is it. That's the spear point of any cultural education is the study of ourselves, and we will blow our own minds.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
I do agree with that.
I mean, just to give you, and I'm keep trying to keep it in an academic context. I'm due to do a Black Studies class on sociology of the Black family, and what we're doing is looking at Black sociological themes of analyzing the Black family, analyzing our past, analyzing our present, and therefore developing strategies for our future. Now, what I just say, we are going to be analyzing, deconstructing Black sociological perspectives, not European sociological perspectives. You stop an average Black person in the street, male, female, young, old. Give me a Black sociological perspective. Do you? I mean, not yeah, because
I'm hanging my head down. I can't answer him, so I'm like, yeah.
But that's the whole point. We don't even know. This is how deep it goes. We don't know these things exist. And I'm referring to over 100 years worth of study, of academic study. Most of it African American, but there are Caribbean inputs, and there's a brother in this country, Dr. Stephen Smalls, who's our best Black sociologist, kind of stuff. And just to give you an example, there are two schools of thought. There is in terms of how we perceive the Black family within a sociological perspective. There is what's called the pathogenic school, and there is the adaptive vitality school. Yeah. Now, I don't know if we've got time to go into them now, but I'm just saying there are two schools of thought here. Just like if we were studying money, you'd study Keynes, you'd study Adam Smith, you'd study various schools of thoughts in terms of money. What are our schools of thought concerning ourselves? Do you understand? Most of us don't even know that these schools of thought exist, and this is what we need to study, because it's about the study of ourselves.
Okay, so would you be able to sort of like give a summary of what each of those two schools of thoughts are?
The pathogenic school says that as a result of the last 500 years of our history, basically the Black family has been destroyed. Yeah, it's just been, it's the Black family is dysfunctional and therefore produces dysfunction.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The adaptive vitality school says, yes, we've been through 500 years of X, Y, Z, but the fact that we're still here and we're still breeding is proof that is proof of our ability, of our vitality and our ability to adapt and progress. And those are two, they're quite two conflicting.
Yeah, and one is almost like one is quite takes a pessimistic view
Absolutely.
Of what happened, as what's happened to us, the Black family. The glass is half full. We've been destroyed and broken down and dysfunctional, and we generationally then pass that on.
Absolutely.
Basically, Willie Lynch theory just running all the way through that constant sort of like being able to just keep moving that on generation after generation sort of thing. And then the glass is half full in that, yes, we have been through that, but look at the fact that we are still here, we are still functioning, we're still together, we're still moving forward, and there's still so many of us striving to regain our greatness and so on. So and they build all of that we've been through. It builds our strength and our determination and our courage.
Our ability to survive is proof of our greatnose.
Yes, and our chosenness
in that respect. So you have. You have those two schools of thought, and they impact on us culturally. In terms of we express that in our culture, we just don't know that we're doing.
And I think I do think we do express that in our culture, and I think we see that in people that we know on a day-to-day basis. You could put them in that school of thought without them even knowing it.
Absolutely.
So, for example, if one of your brethrens now is one of those people that always have that blame mentality. The white man stopped me from doing this, and this one doing this to that one, and this one is that, and woe is me, woe is me, and all of this and this and that. Yeah, you can see that they would belong to that. What's the name of the school of thought? Pathogenic. Where the glass is half full, kind of thing. Whereas the other, another trend that is always striving and reaching and creating new goals, and when one door closes, the next one opens, and are thinking about ways that they can empower themselves and their people in their community, and so on, who would come from the other school of thought. And that is it's almost that kind of thing when they don't even realize what it is that they're attaching themselves to.
And here's the point: if they realized it, they could look into it deeper. You know what I mean? Because it's like, there's nothing better than you kind of got these thoughts and ideas in your mind, and you have a way of thinking, you have an opinion about something, and then you pick up a book and it's like, oh wow, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Oh right, is that where it comes from? Is that oh, I'm getting a fuller explanation of my own thoughts and my own belief systems and where they come from. And I mean, part of the presentation that I'm going to do is the pathogenic school is actually important, because that's where we have to start from.
That's just start. Yeah, I get that.
You know what I mean? That's
the starting space.
We have to start from the fact that if we walk down the street and this is us as black people, if black adults walk down the street and they see a group of black boys on the corner, they're gonna take a wide step around. That's where we're at. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's like you would use what kind of pathogenic techniques to explore that phenomena. Yeah, but then there's the adaptive vitality school, which is to say, okay, we've overcome, we're here, we're damaged, we're bruised, but yeah, we're not finished. We're not finished. We can rise up, because there are many sociologists who just think, the black family, we're done. We're done. You know what I'm saying?
And
because certain things cannot continuously happen. Generation after generation after generation, eventually it will stop, because there will be nothing left to repeat. You know what I'm saying?
They've obliterated themselves.
They've obliterated themselves. They still walk around they may still be walking around with black skin, but they've obliterated themselves. Do you understand? So and I'm just saying I'd love to. If I left school midway through my A levels, just at the beginning of my A levels, because I was just bored. I didn't have any alternative. I had dreams of music, being a musician and an artist and all that kind of stuff. Man, but I knew I had an interest in sociological things. If that was presented to me as a subject of study for A level, you think I would have left? Hell no, I wouldn't have left. I would have stayed and just like, oh, all right. Let me check this out.
I think there is now a black history studies degree now you can do, isn't it? The first one.
It's due to start September 2017.
Yeah.
I think, is it Birmingham? I think it's
Birmingham or Bedford, one of them. Somewhere.
It wouldn't be Bedford. I think it's Birmingham or Nottingham.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there is one there out there now.
And here's the point. I mean, like, again, the pathogenic school would say, yeah, it's taken us 3.5, 4 generations to get one course. You understand? Whereas the adaptive vitality would say, you see, they tried to keep us down for 3-4 generations, but we're still, that little seed we plant, you see the first springs of the flower.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, and I think, if you're going to enter into that sociological debate or just
but we can also
field, you can take bits from both.
Yeah, I was going to say, and we can also learn from and evolve from one to the other. So for example, like you said, I think you made reference to if a group of people saw a group of black, they'll make a wide berth, and I think that there are certain black people that would do the same.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to.
Yeah, so when you walked out, us as people. So the thing there is what I would say is that if you was to see that, and if your first instinct in your mind was, boy, I'm going to cross the road, and then just to like recognize and say, no, hold on a minute, what am I crossing the road for? Why am I crossing the road for my people? No, actually, no. Exactly. I'm going to walk, and as I walk and think, I'm going to smile.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? And I'm going to nod head, and we're going to walk and through. So you're moving from one school of thought to the next one, clocking that awareness, knowing that, say, no, this is
and how new knowledge impacts on your behavior.
Absolutely.
And how new knowledge impacts on your attitude and what have you. And that, just from just a little 5-minute thing I've just given. That's what part of what we should. That's part of what makes a cultural education. Do you understand? About us studying ourselves.
Yeah.
Proper studying ourselves. Let's break it down. You know what I mean? That's why I sometimes have a problem with some of the props to anyone who attempts to teach black education, attempts to teach black history and things. Props. You are king and queen. But there's ways to do it which empower, and there's ways to do it that just kind of don't actually move a person on.
Explain.
In the sense of like, a train of thought, catch the train of thought, in the sense of like, okay, putting names and dates in front of people. Yeah, you know what? In 1677, the first black man to do that was such so and so. You tell that to a 12-year-old kid. Yeah, so what?
Historical facts.
What's that got
names
to do with?
Dates.
What's that got to do with my life?
Reminds you of Henry VIII.
Exactly. What's that got to do with my life up in my ends? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's so again, it's an education. Refers back to our first my first thing about definition of education. Education is knowledge that meets the needs of the student. That student needs to be able to understand their place in the world, and if that place begins in NW6 in a local council block, then yes, that's then that child needs an education that can relate to that to their own experience and in the micro, and relate that experience to the macro, to the global movements that are going on.
Yeah, do you know? So I came across a teacher that did this, where they took the information, the historical information, but they retold it in a story format, where the main character, that the child could identify with the main character, in the sense of what it was that they did, their bravery, their stance they took, the movements that they made. It was almost like historical facts taken and put in today's setting, but of that era, and dealing with the scenes and scenarios of that era in today. So it made it relevant to the children there, so they could take up and think, and so they could take on board the principles and the characterizations of what that person's, the morals of that person, because it was still very relevant to them today, and that's what you call bringing history to life.
Absolutely. And and they do it regularly in schools, and they do it regularly all over the country. They do that with Shakespeare.
Yeah,
modern retellings of Shakespeare. You've got hip hop interpretations of Shakespeare.
Yeah, Carla does that.
Yeah, Carla does that. And there've been other collaborations. I've took part in as a music teacher. I took part in a collaboration, London Philharmonic Orchestra. I was working with their education department, and they did a project involving some schools in about 5 schools in South London. We had big performance up at Royal Festival Hall, and it was all of that. It wasn't Shakespeare. It was taking is it Beowulf?
Oh yeah.
Was taking the aspect of that and retelling it, and the kids were were encouraged to retell the story in their own voice. Yeah, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
that's our cultural education. Yeah, let's retell our stories in 2017. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and I'm excited just talking about it, because it's such a rich, the well, it goes deep, and it's rich, and you just drop a pebble in, just dip your little finger into the water, into that well, and my gosh, you've got a year's curriculum right there. Do you know what I mean? Name the subject, you've got a year's curriculum right there. So it's just that, like I said, we need to overcome our psychological blockage to it, to tapping that potential, to realizing that. And the only way we're going to overcome it is to understand it. That's why, as I was saying, that I gave the example of names and dates. There's also a level whereby, man, we're kings and queens, we're kings and queens, we're kings and queens. And that's where the conversation stops.
Because they don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, that's where the conversation stops. You're kings and queens, and it's like, okay. So I'm descendant of a king. All right. Well, Mum's just had to pop down to the dole office to sort out her stuff.
Dole office.
Am I showing my age?
Yeah.
What do they call it now? Then?
Dole office, you know.
What do they call it now?
The job centre.
Oh, the job centre. Oh, they got that market now. Oh, so but see the madness of the European mind. You go to a job centre. Why? Because you don't have no job. Mm-hmm. And you come out, you still don't have no job. You know what I mean? But I'm saying, you know, it's where there's certain things that only start to deliver the thing. So I'm saying kings and queens. And also, yeah, we were kings, queens, we were farmers, we were builders, we were sculptors, we were everything. We excelled on all areas of human activity. We excelled, and we still do when either given or when we create the opportunity.
I'm telling you.
So I think sometimes I feel let's step back from the king and queen,
because people don't know about all the other elements of it. Do you know what I mean? And I think there's an element of, yes, we were kings and queens, but that's all they know is that statement. We were kings and queens.
Yeah.
Do you know? And as I said previously as well on another show, is that when we say that to our children and they turn around and say, how? When? Show me. Because they don't know nothing. They don't know anything about that. You know? So it's for you to be able to explain and teach them all about this thing. Now, for example, my daughter now, she's preparing for her GCSEs, and she's got an English speaking exam, and so they've got to prepare a speech or a written talking part, and the heading that they've got is a cultural heritage background, something on cultural heritage background, but they've been told that they can't do their own culture.
You see how they're wicked.
So I was like, so you can't do your own culture because because then that would be too easy. Yeah, you're doing your own culture or something like that. And so I said, no, that doesn't make no sense. I goes, anyway, listen, this is an opportunity for you to teach them. Okay, so you can do your own culture, but go beyond. Remember, everybody thinks that our culture starts from slavery, and so if you're talking civil rights, so on and so on, I go, so go beyond that, go way before. And then I goes, come and do something on the Songhai Empire and teach them, or look at King Mansa Musa, and they went, who? One of them went, who? And I went, and I was like, he was the richest black man. I go, so you come and teach them, do something like that, because that's a cultural heritage they didn't think you would know, much less to be able to say, oh, that's your heritage. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I've got the three of them in there, and I will be playing them your lesson on the Songhai Empire, step 1 and 2, for them to teach them, and then go and show them exactly, to be able to teach them that, yes, look, we weren't just kings and queens, we were masters of carpentry, of iron, of steel, of leather, of all of those things that the Songhai Empire had, and how they come to rule, and the dynasties that they had. I go, so she looked at me like, what are you talking about, dynasties? I goes, yes, they had dynasties. Do you know what I mean? And she was like, what? And I goes, exactly, this is the cultural heritage speech that you need to be given.
And and also, and again, that's brilliant, because what they will learn through that process is the impact of their history today.
Yes.
Because they will start to join the dots and see, but wait a minute. So the Songhai Empire had a fully functional civil service with enough ministerial positions, and this civil service ran, controlled, administrated, collected taxes, collected the rubbish and all of them things for an empire bigger than modern day Europe. Wait a minute, you know what I mean? It helps them put things in perspective. You know what I mean? I could go on. Let's take a breath.
Let's take a breath. So
like a technical difficulty,
isn't it? Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're gonna take move on and have a look at
Okay, it's official. The machine broke. going to try and fix it as we talk, but
technical thing
but
is
basically the machine broke.
yes. So
Yeah.
moving on.
Yeah. Oops.
Okay, so I don't know if anyone saw in the news. When did I see this? Last week, it was on the BBC News, saying African Caribbean boys would rather hustle than learn. Yeah, so I just want to read to you this article, and then we can discuss about that. Okay, so black schoolboys can choose to perform poorly to avoid undermining their masculinity. The head of the Jamaican Teachers Association has said. Well, Adolph Cameron said that in Jamaica, where homophobia was a big issue...
According to you... Sorry, let me not interrupt you. Carry on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so where Adolph Cameron said that in Jamaica, where homophobia was a big issue, school success was often seen as feminine or gay. He was concerned the same cultural attitude was affecting African Caribbean male students in the UK. They are one of England's worst performing ethnic groups in schools. Only traveller children do worse at GCSEs. Although improvements have been made, last year just 40% of African Caribbean boys achieved 5 good GCSEs, including English and maths, compared with the national average of 58.5%. Mr. Cameron, head of Jamaican Teachers Association, made the comments in a lecture at an event in Bristol aimed at promoting the educational achievement of black boys and sponsored by the National Union of Teachers. He noted that in Jamaica, boys were at least 10 percentage points behind girls in national tests. Misplaced views about masculinity needed to be tackled in schools. He said, education takes second place to notions of entrepreneurships, as predominantly our young men get involved in the informality of what the University of the West Indies academics Whittier and Gale have called a hustle culture. He went on to ask whether the notion of academic achievement could coexist with notions about black masculinity in contemporary culture. In an interview with the BBC News website, Mr. Cameron said that the notion of masculinity says that if, as a male, you aspire to perform highly, it means you are feminine, even to the extent of saying you are gay.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay, yeah.
But in the context of Jamaica, which is so homophobic, male students don't want to be categorized in that way, so they would deliberately underperform in order that they are not. He said research has suggested that boys in Jamaica deliberately underperformed in literacy tests because the test was carried out in standard English, and to speak in standard English is considered a woman's activity. He went on to suggest that the same cultural attitudes affected the learning of African Caribbean boys in England. He continued, I would not be surprised if here in England the same or similar things occur in terms of how they feel about themselves and how they respond to and with respect to the society around them. Boys are more interested in hustling, which is a quick way of making a living, rather than making the commitment to study. This is supposed to be a street thing, which is a male thing. The influence of this attitude towards masculinity seems to be having a tremendous impact on how well African Caribbean and Jamaican males do. There is a fear of being categorized as gay in a society where homophobia is so strong. So Mr. Cameron said the issue needed further investigation, but there was a growing realization among teachers in Jamaica that they needed to tackle it in the schools. Christine Blower, General Secretary of the NUT, said, there are obviously issues for black boys both in Jamaica and the UK. We need system-wide reform to ensure that the system does not disadvantage black boys. Experience tells us that some black boys do achieve, and what we have to do is replicate those systems which enable them to achieve success.
Okay.
And take a deep breath.
You scroll to the top. Yeah, I mean that occurred in that was printed where?
In the BBC News
BBC
website.
News, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and under the title Afro-Caribbean boys would rather hustle than learn. Yeah. Before we break it down, we need to understand why is the BBC printing this. Yeah, it's printing this because it fits their agenda of in terms of black sexuality, in terms of black masculinity, in terms of sexuality, masculinity. It's fitting their agenda of well, we're just wrong. You understand? We're just wrong. But that's so. I'm just setting that context. Yeah, I mean, I think we do have an anti-academic streak within our culture, and it's worldwide. Yeah, because the same thing. I mean, what he's pointing out in terms of the feminization of education, education is being seen as an effeminate activity. We've had we're on our second generation of hip hop expressing that.
Yeah, I mean that was always been the thing between.
Yeah, man, I didn't go to school, man. I couldn't read to rap, but yeah, man, I'm a millionaire. That's that kind of, yeah.
I was going to say that that's also like when you have the geeks or the nerds and the group popular boys and so forth, that the jocks that could only play football and weren't educated and stuff like that, or not so good in their classes, and get the nerds to do their work for them, that kind of stuff. In terms of masculinity, it's like you can see those different sort of traits going through all school systems, both whether it's in Jamaica or here or in America or something. You see that being televised in their shows, in their sitcoms and things and stuff. Absolutely. Of those that want to, that study, and those that do that as a student, and those that are not, kind of thing. What was interesting for me in this article was the constant reference to homophobic and gay, and the fact that Jamaican is renowned now. You disagree with that?
Sorry, I disagree. I mean, I think that's what I mean when I talk about this is a BBC article, and there's a reason why they print this article. I mean, let's not please suffer the delusion that they're printing this for our good.
Oh, of course not.
They're printing this to further propagate this notion that we're homophobic, we're rabid anti-homosexuality. There's a difference between being anti something and being not something. Yeah, culturally we don't have that sexual prior to enslavement. We don't have that history of cultural sexual practice that Europeans have.
Well, that history of that sexual practice was forced upon us.
Absolutely.
And Jamaica had those seasoning plantations where sexual that kind of sexual abuse was used as a form of domination and control. And the biggest, strongest black slave was what they call buck breaking. So there is a legacy in the island of Jamaica towards homophobia,
which expresses
not homophobia, sorry, homosexuality behavior. There's a reason why that might be the case, where that has come from. But to say that our black boys don't want to be educated or purposely underperform because they don't want to be seen as that seems a bit far-reaching for me.
I think there's two things. There's two different conversations in this article. There's a conversation about sexuality and cultural sexuality. Yeah, the differences in sexuality. In sexuality is part of your cultural expression. All right, let me break it down. Men, all right, human beings, I'm going to say men, yeah? Men can have sexual intercourse with women, with other men, and with a wide range of animal life. All right, we're getting deep now. Yeah, listen, it's real thing, yeah? No, right. Listen, there's a reason why the European calls his dog man's best friend. Yeah, we ain't got time to go into. I can quote you 12th century medieval literature which speaks of this, right? But we're not going to go there. But no. Just biologically, that's the word that was missing. Biologically, man can have sex with women, other men, and a range of animal life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Usually cloven-hoofed animal life. Right now, what is it that makes one of those okay, 1 out of the 3 okay, and 2 out of the 3 not. What is it that makes some people say, well, 1 out of the 3 is fine, the other 2 is not. Some people say 2 out of the 3 is okay, but the other one is not. Some people say 3 out of the 3 is fine. What is it that informs those choices, those beliefs, those decisions? It's your culture. We live in a culture whereby 2 out of the 3, we live in a European culture whereby 2 out of the 3 is fine. It's permissible, it's encouraged, it's celebrated.
Woman and beast.
It's celebrated.
I'm joking. It was just funny. Yeah,
But do
okay.
you understand? So yeah, whereas 2 out of the 3 are permissible, are taught in schools, are celebrated, etc., etc.,
and it's- yes.
etc., etc., right? But what Europeans refuse to accept because of their cultural domination of the world is that they refuse to acknowledge that, well, yeah, but not everybody's culture is like that. Yeah, in African culture, you can't marry your horse. You can in European culture. You can legally marry your horse.
Excuse me?
Yeah, listen, how much man in Texas marry their horse?
Oh, wow.
This is real talk, Melanie. Listen, go get the marriage license, sign it, get the horse for stamp it.
Step on it with their hooves.
Their hooves. No, this is real talk. Do you understand? And you know, because we don't know you see, I think particularly when it comes to sexuality, because we don't know our own, this is part of cultural education, we do not know our sexual history. We do not know our history of man and woman relationships.
Yeah.
We do not know our history of what was taboo in our culture. What was permissible and what was taboo? Because and why were they so? Why was this thing okay and this thing was like no? We don't know these things, so we take on other people's philosophies, other people's belief systems. And even when we feel uncomfortable with it, because we don't know, we're not strong enough to speak out. We're not strong enough to say, you know what? I don't stand for this. I don't think this is right. Yeah. So we just kind of cower and go along with the smile, and you know, it's the equivalent of like you know, you're in a room and you hear somebody cracking racist jokes, subtly racist jokes, but you're the only black person in the room, and sometimes that's just overwhelming. So you just kind of sit on your hands and just keep your mouth shut just to get by. You understand? Same thing occurs in terms of our notions of our sexuality, notions of all of it. So again, referring back to the article, you know, this is just Europe imposing European European cultural ideas of sexuality, imposing it on the rest of the world, which is why they keep condemning Jamaicans for being homophobic, yet they just voted for a president who what? A president who's the nastiest, excuse my language, nastiest, anti-women, treats women like dogs, can boast about touching up a woman because he's rich and white and male. You know what I mean? They refuse to see the hypocrisy in their own situation. So that's the first thing, that the actual sexual politics that article is propagating. And then there's the notion of black masculinity and how does education function within that area of black masculinity. I mean, you know, any black woman with a daughter entering their teens or what have you, you have to be part of your educating your daughter is to be to educate her to say, well, look, don't be going for the thugs, because I'm sorry, you know, teenage girls 16, 17, 18, they go for the thug more than they go for the geek.
Yeah.
You know, why is that? This is what I mean when I say we need
because the thug has been hyped up in media as being the one. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we need to study ourselves and understand our own behavior. Why is this thug got 3-4 girls in their late teens, early 20s who would gladly do all kind of something for please this man? You know what I mean? For just get a ride in his car or whatever. Do you know what I'm saying? That's about notions of masculinity that have been nurtured in us over centuries. And so how do we develop strategies to combat that? We need to elevate the intellect, the intellectual greatness of the black man and the black woman.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's how you begin to challenge that. And one more thing, this reference to the hustle, yeah. This reference to the hustle. So what? You tell me, say Europeans don't teach their children to hustle? They don't call it hustle. They call it business. They call it business. Yeah. When black folk do it, and because we're excluded from the legal means of it, a lot of us have to engage in the illegal hustle. Yeah, but Europeans, they hustle just as much. They don't have to break the law to do it.
Well, actually, a lot of them do break the law. That's what you call white collar crime, isn't it? And blue collar and white collar, isn't it? Something along those lines. But when I look at this and read this article, all that this article does is reinforce to me the need, even more so the need of why we have to have that cultural based education. Because if those black boys were confident and culturally aware of who they are, there would be no concern about deliberately failing or not getting an education because they're going to be seen as such. In actual fact, they would aspire to it if they knew that, our culture used to trade in books. That was our thing. That was our biggest commodity, was books and reading and being of knowledge and learned, and that it would take 10 years to earn a degree, and stuff. And people strove for that in their life. That was what their target was, And so if they knew that, and if they knew what greatness and riches they got from that, and what prestige and status they got from being a learned man,
and also what potential being a learned young black man today. The world is yours.
I'm telling you.
The world is yours, and that's an important message that we need to
and
pass
that's why
on.
it's not being passed on. That's why you're not seeing that taking precedence in media or front, is because if our black men were to become fully aware that the world was theirs, if they were educated, and I don't mean in the sense of education of getting your A's and A stars distinctions and so on and thingy, but being educated in themselves and who they are, so that they have the confidence and the ability to know that they can speak eloquently in whatever it is that they're talking about in their own field. That power there.
Absolutely.
Right there, do you know what I mean? Because nobody can do you nothing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we need to just keep on pushing that message, and keep on teaching and showing our children just how important it is to have a cultural understanding of themselves, and everything else to do with them, because it's too easy for them to fall for anything without that. And they really do, and they are falling for anything.
Yeah, and as they're falling for it, their parents are falling for it too.
Yeah, they really are. So we have to keep pushing forward. The
Primary Learning Center. The Primary Learning Center.
Cool. Yes, this is the Primary Learning the Primary Learning Center, TPLC Educational Talkshow. We're being educated. I hope you are too. And can I flow for a bit? And so to take it, in terms of our cultural education and the things that we can learn. Yeah, the things that we can learn. Well, a few technical things that go on today, but that's all right. We keep it real here. Okay. But one of the things that I love is that I've observed and I've participated in myself over the last few years, I'm saying 10, 15 years or what have you, is the celebration and the revelation of our history in science, in black science, in inventors. I used to volunteer at we call it this Discovering Science Club, and it was a science club for black children of primary school age. And I know that there's somebody else has set up another one, and we've got basic institutions like Blacks in Science, run by Michael, brother, his name I can't remember, but he's created, he and his organization have created a huge revelation of series of books celebrating black science and black inventors. Now, again, this information, if we're talking about a cultural education and what that means, meeting the needs of the students, meeting the needs of the black community, which means going deeper than just, let me pull one out the hat, George Washington Carver, yeah? Mr. Peanut, yeah? Bad man. It's about really drawing out the things that apply to us, that resonate in us, deeper than just this man was a great inventor. There are so many lessons we can learn from his life story, lessons that will relate to us and can relate to us as adults, can relate to us as adults, and can relate to us, inspire our children. Now, first thing I need to explain, George Washington Carver, he was born 1860, and he lived a long time. He passed in 1943, yeah? 1860, born in America. What was happening then? Okay. What was happening? Slavery was abolished in 1865 in the US. Now, we're talking about first generation after enslavement. Yeah, and it wasn't a case of, we came out of, yesterday we were slaves, today we're not, so we're just happy and we got access to everything. The generation of the first generation out that came out of slavery were vast majority illiterate, because remember, we're coming out of a situation whereby reading could be punishable by death. Yeah, so we're coming out of a situation of illiteracy. And if you look at the list of inventors, particularly those who submitted patents, yeah, an inventor creates something, they submit a patent, they own it, they own the copyright of it, submit the diagrams and everything. Loads in the 1870s, 1880s, 1890s. So we're talking about one generation from enslavement who had the creativity and the self-motivation, because they were largely self-taught, to actually create some of the greatest inventions in modern America. Yeah? George Washington Carver, one of his greatest achievements was that he was the director of agriculture at the Tuskegee Institute. The Tuskegee Institute was for many years, and some argue still is, the number one black college in the US. Yeah, so he taught there. His inventions impacted on the paper industry, the synthetics industry, the car manufacturing industry. Dehydrated food. Any time you go into a shop and you see food that's freeze dried, give props to George Washington Carver. Yeah, there's a lot more to him than just peanuts. Excuse me, a lot more to him than just peanuts. And so for me, I could spend an hour talking about the brother, but for me, all of those inventors, what was the mindset that allowed them, that gave them the motivation to, one, self-teach themselves? Yeah, they couldn't go to, it wasn't like you can go City Lit and plug in, sign up for an evening class. What was it, the motivation that gave them the drive to educate themselves and to step into the unknown? Because that's what inventing is. You're inventing something, it's never been done before. You don't know if it's going to work. But
don't they say that most inventions come about from a need?
Yeah,
a need where something needs to be solved, and I guess for them, they would want to solve their life situation.
Absolutely.
You know, the desire then to be able to move forward, to create something for themselves and for their families, that would have been, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think, you know, the fact that they are one generation from enslavement, their parents would have been slaves.
Yeah.
So that
And could that be the driving force, you know, from what our parents always say to us, that we have to do better? You always want more for your child, you know. So I could imagine they would have been told by their parents and the people around it, like, you know, go forth and create, go study, learn, do. You know what I mean? In that sense.
Absolutely. And it's like, you know, and that still happens in that you can relate that to, as you're saying, our generation here in this country. The Windrush generation that came to this country were highly motivated educationally. I know, say, all of us of a certain generation, we took it for granted in the sense that like our parents wanted us to do well at school. There was no, you know, you know, you're leaving school, forget it, man. Go into your school, you know, you got to work twice as hard as the European or whatever. Highly motivated.
And that's been, sorry to cut you, that's been reiterated. There's a series now on BBC Two, looking at the black and British, and there's one where they are interviewing successful black people across the fields.
Okay.
Right, so it's not just your usual music and art sort of thing, but you've got the scientists and inventors and creators and so forth that are being spoken to. And one of the things that they've all said when they talk about their childhood and their parents saying, you have to work twice as hard.
Yeah.
Everybody, every single one of them has said that they were told that they had to be twice as better, twice as hard to achieve the same level as their white counterpart. You know, you had to be work and twice as hard. There was no other option.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you couldn't go toe to toe and be at that same level. You had to be above still to gain the same level as as the white counterpart.
And we took that on, whether we achieved the levels or not. We actually we took that on. Now that's not standard for everyone. I mean, in the sense of like for the English working class, hell no. Yeah, we forget there are generations of you step outside London, you could find them in the outskirts of London, but you step outside London, say somewhere like Nottinghamshire, there are massive housing estates where they're on their 4th, 5th generation of signing on. That's the expectation that's passed on. That's the thing, you know, they, like you said, they got their hustle thing going on. That's passed on. It's like, what, you know, no. Look, this is how you scam the dole. This is how you scam job seekers. This is how you scam what have you. That's the mentality that's passed on. Ours was a different mentality. And again, you know, we need to put ourselves in proper perspective so that, one, we understand what was passed on, and 2, we understand what we might be in danger of losing.
And I think that message is, we're in danger. I think that message is lost. I mean, did you say to your son that he had to work twice as hard to achieve, to get to the same level? Was that a message that you passed on?
Yeah, I don't think I used that particular phrase, but I let him know, so listen, they're going to choose white kids before they choose you. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you know, I like I said, I don't think I used that particular phrase, but, you know, I made it clear to my son that, listen, things are not equal.
Yeah.
Things are not equal.
So the reason I just put you on the spot there in that sense was because I'm thinking now, and I'm reflecting and thinking, have I said that message to my child in the sense of, not even in that phrasing, but in the sense of like, you know what, you have to be.
I think, like I said, I think maybe none of us still pass it on, but I think maybe the style of delivery or the way we, maybe I'm just wishful thinking.
Yeah, because, you know, it makes you think, because when you look at our current state of our children in the education system, and, you know, it makes you think, well, that message is not being passed on because they're not acting on it,
which relates to the fractures the schisms in our community, which prevents that message from being passed on.
And that's with a loss of culture, a loss of
culture, and as
hereditary.
a result of a loss of, and hand in hand with the loss of culture is the loss of parenting.
Yeah.
The loss of guidance, the loss of thing. I saw and
that's actually becoming more disenfranchised and more European mindset. In that sense, because that's how they're very insular and nucleus.
I mean, part of what I believe what I'm responding to you is in terms of a cultural education. If I put this to you, we don't need any more black professionals. What we need are black entrepreneurs. We need black capitalists.
Yeah.
Now, when I say use the word black capitalist, I don't mean that in terms of, oh, you must be a slave to the capitalist system and want to exploit other people. But capitalists create money. Entrepreneurship creates money. And then you use that money to build your schools, build your this, build your that.
It's black economics. It's creating and spending the black pound and creating that and spending it and spreading it within the community and so forth. So it is the power of black economics. It's the power of a black bank that has all funds coming in that they're able to then fund small black businesses to open up and further build the community and so forth. I mean, it's just like back in the day in America in 1920s. What's the name of that one? Is it Tulsa?
Yeah, Wall Street
in Tulsa, the Black Wall Street and stuff. I mean, they understood that there. Marcus Garvey talks about that's one of his key concepts is on black economics. And until we get our heads round that and take that on board, there's an element of, will we ever build a foundation? Because that is the foundation, that's the ground.
And without that foundation, we currently have, and we're in the process of developing the next one, a generation who are unemployable.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, by the age of 21, you're done. You are unemployable.
And there's the thing, sorry.
No.
But there's the thing, I saw, it just reminds me of, I saw a video of it was a Chinese man, I can't remember his name, but the video was basically talking about the fact that in our very near future we have to be training our children on the types of jobs and skills that are going to be available, in terms of, because lots of jobs now are being replaced by machines.
Yeah.
And stuff. So the job market is changing, and therefore what you're learning and studying to do is changing, and you have to make sure that you're choosing a career or profession that cannot be replaced.
Yes.
By
that's going to be
artificial
here
intelligence
years from now. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and he says, so one of the things that artificial intelligence can't do very well is visual, see things, recognize minute things and stuff. So whatever the skill that you're doing, if it's relying on or something that is not repetitive, so certain professions that are not repetitive, where the daily job is different every day and stuff, such as policemen, fire engines, fire workers and so on, those type of things can't be replaced by machinery. And so that's something that we have to take on board. No, and it's like when I watched that, I was like, oh gosh, because people are still training in areas that are being replaced by machinery, accounting, basic bookkeeping, those kind of jobs are not going to be existent, and stuff in terms of, you won't need your basic bookkeeper or your small accountant.
You just load the app.
That's what I'm saying. Because that's exactly, listen, all right. So I run my own business, I don't have an accountant. I have an app. I do have a program that I put all of my finances in, and it runs my figures in. It runs my reports and my things and so forth, and it tallies everything and tells me how much tax I need to pay and all of these things. I mean, I do double check it with an actual human being, because the machine is only. But it's not, because it's only as good as the person that's inputting the information. Do you know what I mean? So there is that, but it really does highlight the fact that we have to be thinking about what the job market, the perspective, and this is even more reason to be developing that entrepreneurial skill. You know what I mean? And speaking of which, there was a guy called Julian Hall, and the entrepreneur who is actually running workshops with children between, I think, what age is it, 8 to 16 or something, developing their business skills. There's an actual fair coming up, a business fair, kids business fair that he's holding. I think it's on the Google campus and stuff. So he's getting a lot of attraction and media towards it, you know. But the key thing here is that he is, and actually what's interesting is a lot of these children are homeschooled as well that come to these things. You know what I mean? So they've of that mindset already. It's been already embedded in them to create for themselves and be creative.
They're already thinking outside the box. So they're creating like vegan chocolates and food like that, bacon, and then there's accountants, there's finance things, there's motivate, and these are children. So there's movements happening. You know, more power to that.
You know, that we can encourage our children to be. To think entrepreneurial, you know, there's no longer is the case. So as much as we're saying yes, you need to be twice as good as your white counterpart. At the same instance, you've got to be teaching them that it's not about getting an education for you to get a job. Absolutely. It's about getting an education for you to create
a life for yourself.
Yes, to create. Don't look to get a job, look to be the job, to create that job, to make it for yourself, to be the company. I used to say to my daughter from young, and she remembers me always saying to her, I don't mind if you're a cleaner, just own the company. Do you know what I mean? You can go and clean, but own the company. That's the difference. That's the difference. If you choose to make your profession in that thingy, make sure you own that stuff. Own it. Lock, stock and barrel. It is yours. You have created it. So if cleaning is your thing,
then make it
your thing. Make it a good thing. Own it. Own it. Do you know what I mean? And there's almost like, you know, I remember my sister, the Spirit, saying about, you know, if children are wanting to come under that term hustle, you know, their business and stuff, own it, make it professional, make it legit,
absolutely,
do it properly, because, you know, hustling is a skill, it's a business mentality.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? It is a business mentality. So take that level to a legal level. Do you know what I mean? And create and make your thing, because you're already demonstrating that you have the knowledge, you know, the know-how to trade. So take that trading skill, that selling skill, to a new level and create your industry. One that is untouchable, not untouchable because you got holy for firearms. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? But that's the message that we need to be sending to our children. Get your education, and create your own.
And that's standard practice, and that's standard global practice. John F. Kennedy, celebrated president of the United States. His father was a very, 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 very rich man. He made his fortune bootlegging. You know, back in the 20s, bootlegging, when prohibition, alcohol was illegal. He was one of the biggest distributors of alcohol in America. And the man made millions of it. You know, and it's what the mafia do. They make their money illegally, and then they wash it. They clean it.
That's good laundering.
Yes, and they gain respectability. And then two generations later, their children become presidents. And everybody's forgot that they started out as gangster. Now, I'm not advocating that we go gangster. I'm not advocating gangster.
I'm thinking you're referring to.
No, I'm saying because you know, and it refers back to the article. When we try and get our game on, we're called hustlers. When other people do it, they're called business people. They're called they're respected for their business acumen. You know what I mean? Etc. 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 So I mean, you know, legitimize, build your cleaning company, because, you know, every office needs cleaning and people will pay for it. And if you count the number of offices in London alone that need cleaning, you know what I mean? And rather than be the army of black workers who arrive at 5 a.m. in the morning to clean the office, own the company.
Be the one that's sending them off.
Own the company, and then replace them with Polish with Polish workers, and employ them and send them to the black college that you funded, whereby they can then learn their own entrepreneurial skills. And so it got. One thing that the article reminded me, excuse me, there was reference to speaking English, Queen's English.
Standard English, it said.
And I remember that at school, in the sense of, you know, look, slang is a thing, and every generation creates its new language. That's part of being young person is, parents often have this joke about they're teenagers. You don't understand what they're saying after a certain age. Yeah, you might hear your son or your daughter in a conversation with their friends. You actually don't understand half the words that are being used.
Trust me, you need to have keen ears.
You know what I mean?
And the things that you used to say as slang as a child,
yeah.
they've now got a new word for that.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And a new thing. So, what's the words out there now?
Peng. Is that
peng,
that's old though?
Peng.
Isn't it?
Well, no, they're still being used. Peng, peak. What's the one? Gassed.
Yeah,
gassed.
Somebody said, and I just like, and I'm too embarrassed to ask. What are you saying?
No, listen, I have to ask. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Because I have to be keen. I have to be on my daughter's toes. She's 15. So I need to know what it is that she's talking about. But at the same instance, when she talks to me like that, I have to tell her, I say, talk properly. Remember who you're talking to. Yeah, because remember, as children, and I think we were able to.
We were bilingual.
We were. We spoke a certain way to our teachers, a certain way to our parents, and a certain way to our friends.
Absolutely.
And a certain way to strangers.
And we need to celebrate, and we need to recognize. I say again,
children don't do that no more.
Part of cultural education is recognizing that and celebrating that. And I'll give you a couple of a few examples of language and cultural education in terms of language. Yeah. Why I'm hungry? More nyam 2 piece of something. What I just said.
You're hungry and you want to eat 2 things.
Right. The word nyam, I'm using the spelling N-Y-A-M. That's Wolof. That's an African Wolof word, meaning to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you were in Africa 150 years ago, you use the same word, nyam, meaning to eat. All right. Another one. Uno too fast. Where Uno going? What's Uno?
Uno, you lot.
Yeah. Unu is Ibu for you lot. Literally is Unu for you lot. All right, this one's a slight thing, but right, Juka. I got Juka you.
I'm going to stab you.
Well, not quite.
The motion that he did with his hand was quite threatening.
But Juka is Fulani. Fulani is West African, and it means literally to pierce or to poke.
Okay, to juk, to stab.
To juk, absolutely. But they speak it as juka. Sorry, juku.
And we brought it down to juk.
Absolutely. Unu is ibu, meaning you lot. Nyam is wolof, meaning to eat. Now, you dig what I'm saying?
You dig? Do I understand?
Yeah, right. That's Wolof. They spell it as the Wolof spelling would be D-E-G, which means to understand. Replace the E with the I. You dig?
Dig, yeah.
Yeah. So
dig. It went from dig to dig.
It went from dig to dig, and that's Wolof translated into African American because we get that expression from African American.
Yeah, because that's not a British.
Yeah. You dig. But what I'm saying is, for us to be a part of a cultural heritage is a cultural education is being aware of what we're passing on, what we've kept our traditions that exist today in 2016. You could talk to your daughter and say, you and your friend, just come out that room, man. She knows exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is not disrespectful.
It's not, because it's my mum would say it, so she would know it as mum, nana, granddad, uncle, auntie, because we all talk like that. Do you know what I mean?
And it's about legitimizing our culture. That is part of cultural education, is to legitimize our culture. Because again, if they use these words, and obviously in terms of education is when and where language is appropriate, but they're being told that this language is wrong. Do you understand? They're being told that this language is wrong, and it's like, no, any language can be, the rightness or the wrongness of a language is totally dependent on context.
Yeah.
How you use and where you use it and who you're speaking to.
Yeah.
Like you say, you don't speak to your mother like you're speaking to your friend. You know what I mean? Kind of stuff. But
and I think that's the same in English culture. Do you know what I mean? It's like, they certainly, the way they speak to their parents and the way they speak to their friends, I think it's a natural thing. I think in every culture there's an element of, you respect your elders and you talk to certain people in a certain way and stuff like that.
But just the reason I cited it was about the thing of the Queen's English being naturally seen as a superior form.
Well, funny you should, absolutely, and funny you should say that specifically in relation to Jamaica, because I saw again on social media. It was a video post of a Bible. The Bible
that's been
has been translated and
patois.
reprinted into patois,
I heard that
and the furore around that, you know, where it's almost like the two camps. You know what I mean? There's one saying absolutely, and so it should be, and you know, people can listen and hear and engage properly in the story, bringing the Bible to life to them in their language, in the way that they speak, so that it actually resonates with them. And there's others that are saying, well, it's not standard English, and therefore it's demeaning the word of God. And so how is it that the word of God, did the word of God come in standard English?
Exactly.
Is that how it was originally written? That it and it's not been translated into any other language? You know, so it came. The word of God was written in standard English. People, did you not know that?
Yeah. Queen's English.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I mean? So So you've just blown that one out.
Do you know what I mean? So and it's funny to it's funny to because I heard a reciting from it, and when there's. And I must admit, you do, and it did make me laugh. It made me laugh. It made me laugh to hear it that way, and it was so good to hear it. That's what made me laugh. The fact that they were telling a story, a biblical story in that way, and I thought, about time, about time. Even though I don't agree with the stories anyway, but you know what I mean. It was just the fact that it was done.
And could you imagine being in church as a young girl, 8, 9 years old, and hearing that from the pulpit? You'd be a lot more engaged.
Let me tell you,
you'd be a lot more engaged.
You wouldn't be sleeping. You would not be sleeping. You'd be listening to that story, and it would be resonating with you in different ways.
And it would make it far easier for you to actually discuss that story with your fam.
Absolutely, and for them you to embody it and actually live it. You know, because it resonates. It's not some old-fashioned, old-worded, this person and this one and that one and so on and so on. You're thinking, what am I talking about? Lord, I'm tired. You see, let me sleep. Do you know what I mean?
Everyone's trying to get on the back pew because that's the most comfortable place where you can sleep and not be seen.
Isn't it? And not get clapped in your head. But do you know what I'm saying? For real, the power of language. The power of language. You know, so it's important that, you know, we get a full grip on it, and that our children are fluent.
And like I say, we legitimize, you know, part of cultural education is about legitimizing ourselves, because so much of what we do naturally has become illegitimized. It's become, don't go like that, don't do that. Do you know what I mean? And whether it's don't speak properly. No, recognize that is a language, and as I've just demonstrated, that's a language with a long history. And that language has migrated from continent to continent to continent to continent. Excuse me. Legitimize that language. Understand its usage and when not to use it. You understand? You know, if you're going for your job interview with the headmistress, you don't go and sit to her and say, all the good, you know. Tell me about school dinner. Come on, yam too. You serve jerk. Come in, yam jerk at lunchtime. You know what I mean? You're not really
it's funny. It's funny, and you know what? It is a challenge, you know, because I'm in a situation at the moment where one of my students, a young Jamaican boy, has been here probably about 8 months now or something, and he's into year 6 and stuff. So he's doing the reading, and it's reading and answering the questions and so forth and things. So I gave him some questions to answer on this piece, and one of the responses that he wrote, the question, I'm trying to remember the question. The question was based on why was this character excited about going to school? Going to school sort of thing. And his response was to learn so he could reach far in life.
Okay, yeah.
Learn so but you could hear him. Learn so he can reach far in life. You know, he can reach far. And it's like, baby, no, I know what you're saying, but we can't write that. So we have to write it in standard English. He means it so that he can achieve his goal. I think that reach far in life. And there were so many little colloquial type, you know, in the things, and it's like you knew what he was saying, and the way that he explained it, he was explaining it in his language, you know, and stuff, and he was absolutely right in what he was saying. But unfortunately, so to get through the test and the SATs, he's got to learn how to say it in standard English.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? And it's so, this is where it becomes going back to the first video that I played, you know, about that
education.
if the education system is teaching everybody to climb a tree, but if you're a fish,
you're done.
how you're done, you know what I mean, or a horse, or an elephant, how you gonna get up with that tree, you know what I mean? So it's them kind of things, you know. So it's like, I've got to try and get him to climb a tree.
And it's kind of, I suppose it's like, because he will need to be able to deal with standard English.
That's right.
And to get him to learn that without devaluing his natural mode of expression.
And that's the same thing that we have. You see, the thing where it becomes a bit more apparent with him is because he speaks English, although it's not standard English. He speaks English. So when I'm teaching my EAL child, say, who is Portuguese, and I'm teaching them English, or I think it's a much simpler process, because it's two clearly different languages. Do you know what I mean? So therefore, you're able to really pinpoint on the standard English, so to speak, in that sense. But taking a patois speaking and a patois writing boy, into writing standard English is not as simple, because he talks in English, and you can communicate with English and all of that, and quite perfectly. Do you know what I mean? In that sense, so it's a lot harder. I think. You know, in my experience, it's a lot harder to get that, you know, because the knowledge of English is already there. At this level, it has taken roots.
And again,
in this way,
and again, it's there's a cultural discussion going on there. Do you know what I mean? In terms of, even if you're not referring to it directly, there's a cultural discussion in terms of just explain to this boy why you have to. But wait, I thought I spoke English, and now you're telling me that I don't. If you want me to understand the language, you have to explain that to me. Do you know what I mean? Which is a cultural conversation. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what I mean? And it is literally that. And I'm saying, right, so we're not answering in patois, we're answering in English. So we have to think about,
this is what's required.
do you know what I mean? But if you're raised, if that's your language, which is your language, which is the same as being raised in, if you're Portuguese or Spanish or French or Yoruba or another African speaking language, was it Twi or something like that?
Twi,
it's then, you know,
Yoruba,
all of them, you know, it's a different process to getting them to speak and write English.
It's not getting a French person to write English. You know what I mean? It's not that.
Isn't it?
So,
One more time.
Primary Learning Center.
One more time.
The Primary Learning Center.
And I think, speaking of time is about to
we're coming up to an end of that, you know, a few minutes left to roll here and so on. So, you know, it's been a great conversation here, and I've really enjoyed coming and talking to you about our education system and what we need to do to empower our children and our boys to really understand and what the meaning of a cultural based education is, and the steps that we can do. So we're working on that ourselves within our own little corners, trying to reach out to other people that are doing similar things and building a network of educators and providers of services that will empower our community. So we mentioned previously on the last show, you know, what's coming up, TPLC Academy, which will have on there an online supplementary school which is teaching our history, a children's edition of our Black history, as well as empowerment and mindfulness, and as well as, you know, the standard maths and English and things. But the main thing here in the academy is cultural based education.
Absolutely.
And all of the tools needed to get one's control of oneself, one's thoughts and mind, body and spirit connection, you know, and it's a holistic education that we're moving forward with. So we're really looking forward to it when launching that. We're still building the platform, we're still coming together and all the information. So as soon as we're ready to launch, we'll be letting you know about that, exactly how you can come involved. So you can go along to the website www.theprimarylearningcentre.org and start looking at some information there about what we're doing and what's coming up, and the launch date will be available soon as we continue to build and put that platform together. And as I said, there's lots of other smaller and medium-sized, lots of other businesses out there, other people in places doing similar things, and it's about coming together, building that network so we have a strong platform, a strong business, black and economic base to grow our community on.
I hear that. I can't add to that. That's perfection. Yeah. So and this cultural, we just skimmed the surface today. Of course, this conversation is going to maintain and continue, and we're going to develop it and get deeper and deeper and more expressive. And yeah. Good times to have.
Yeah, coming up on our next episode, we have Rejole Batata. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name properly, so please forgive me if I've said it wrong. But Rejole Batata from ATL Learning, who is again a teacher that has been teaching for about 12 years or so, has started her company with the desire to be teaching our children about STEM education.
So science-based education.
Science, technology, and mathematics.
Yeah.
What's the E again?
That's a good point. Science, technology, entomology.
No, and mathematics. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. That's it. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
My mind just went blank there.
You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, yes. So science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And again, these are things. Those are skills that cannot be replaced by machinery and AI technology. Do you know what I mean? And those are skills that just broaden the horizon, broadens their understanding of their place in the world and what it is that they do, and how magnificent these areas can be. So she is encouraging our children and our parents to take up these activities, to explore them some more, to be, so they can become the next sort of George Carver and what's her name, Maya Stevens. Is it Maya Stevenson that went to?
Mae Jemison.
Mae Jemison, that's
Jemison,
it. Jemison, that went to the astronaut and do all of them things, and so she'll be coming to join us on the next episode to talk about these things and what she's doing in the community and how we can go on to support her. And as I said previously, Ultra Kids Business Fair is coming up on the 5th of December. So you look them up on Facebook, Ultrapreneur. Julian Hall and the Entrepreneur, get your children involved in that. And even if they're not involved in this one, go along and visit and get inspired. The tickets are free. It doesn't cost you anything to go and go to the fair and see what it is that they're doing, so that you can inspire your children to possibly follow in their footsteps and create things for themselves. Be proactive in looking for things that can move you and your child on in your education, and don't think that it's just about your child's education, because in moving them forward,
you move yourself forward.
And you show them that life is a continuing a learning process, and that we're never too old to learn. So taking that step empowers your mindset, empowers your family, not just your children, but everybody in your family, who begin to feed off of that, and you feed off the knowledge of yourself and your greatness, and you pass that on to your children, and then they will go on to pass that on to the next generation, and we can continue to grow and flourish.
Primary Learning Center, empowering our children to climb the mountains and cross the sea, be the best that they can be. At the Primary Learning Center, Primary Learning Center.
So that's just to let you know that we're coming up to the end of the show now. So we're just going to wrap up with our final thoughts and our goodbyes, so then we can know where we're moving to next time.
Okay. Yes, this is Danny Thompson of Evolving Creatives. My mind doesn't really go for the full 2 hours yet. I still need to build up my mental stamina. But yeah, it's been really good to participate in this conversation. As I say, it's the first of many conversations, because it's through these conversations that we develop our ideas, we develop each other, we create our present and our future. So give thanks to Melanie for putting up with me, and and see you next time.
It's been a good show, people. It's been a good show. Make sure you tune in for the next one. We'll be uploading the show onto YouTube, so you can listen again when you're ready. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that you keep up to date of when all the new releases come out. So yes, it's been a pleasure. Remember, guide your children.
Empower your children. Visit www.theprimarylearningsentre.org.